Let's start with a little science experiment. We're going to dissect an ordinary comic panel. Now, when you take a panel apart, you're looking at four basic elements: the frame, the speech bubble, the characters, and the setting. A comic artist can arrange these four elements in all kinds of ways, but at the end of the day, a comic panel is a narrative tool, and your arrangement should be used in service of a story. Before we talk about the elements of the panel, let's remind ourselves of the overall goal of the comic panel, and that is to engage the reader. We want to use a panel to invite the reader into our imagination and connect them with a character's experience. A comic panel needs to be a balance of two creative agendas. First, you want to design your panel in a way that makes them clear and easy to understand by the reader. But on the other hand, you also want to represent your illustrative flair and authorial voice. You want to give them some style. Of course, it takes practice to find that balance, but it also takes an understanding of the elements of the panel and how to make them work effectively. Now that we have goals for our comic panel, let's take it apart and talk about how each of these four elements can be used effectively. In other words, we're here to look at the do's and do nots of a good comic panel. We'll start with the frame. The frame is the invisible force behind all comics. Respect these four lines and you'll be a much better comic artist. Do not think of your comic frame as a box in which you can squeeze a drawing inside of. Your frame shouldn't feel like a two-dimensional space. The bottom of your panel is not a floor, and the top is not a ceiling. Using a panel this way robs your imagination of creative opportunity, and it'll make your panels uninteresting. Do think of your frame as a lens into the world of your character. Treating it like a lens will bring visual depth to your ideas and find your panel a narrative point of view. These are all very good things. Next is the speech bubble. Speech bubbles take as much planning and drawing as the other art in your panel. Give them the respect they deserve. Do not draw your speech bubble first and then hope you can fit the text inside. It never works out. Cramped text makes a comic not fun to read. Do not allow speech bubbles to interrupt a character's eye line. Speech bubbles should never interrupt a scene in any way. And furthermore, do not attach speech bubbles to a character's mouth. Do place your text in the panel before you draw your speech bubble. It's best to integrate text in the top 1/3 of the frame. Allow your speech bubble to be cropped by the frame if necessary, especially if it means giving your text more space. Do allow yourself time with your lettering. Make them bold and clean. Sometimes it helps to write in all capitals. It'll slow down your penmanship. And since comic panels are often small, capitals will help your line work retain its clarity. Please do consider where your speech bubbles are positioned. They should be imagined as floating above and just behind a character's head, and in front of background elements and setting. Next, we have the characters. Characters will guide much of your panel composition. By knowing who they are, what they want, what they are doing at this exact moment in time, will allow you to make clear and interesting compositional choices. Do give your characters expressions and put their bodies in poses. If you need more insight into cartoon faces and body language, check out my Skillshare channel for classes on that exact topic. Just like with speech bubbles, do carefully frame your characters in the panel. Remember, your frame is a lens, so please do zoom in on action and facial expressions so your reader doesn't miss what's happening in the story. Please do capture your characters in engaging and exciting moments. Do not draw your characters in wooden and symmetrical poses. This drains the characters of life. So please do teach yourself to draw your characters in natural poses. Do connect the eye lines of characters to enforce interactions. Do not overcrowd a panel with characters. The reader will have no idea what they're supposed to be focusing on. On the other side of things, do not leave giant empty spaces. Readers will assume you're doing it on purpose, and they'll interpret your composition as something meaningful. Last but not least, we have the setting. The setting conveys the time and place your characters are living in. Settings are important, but shouldn't distract from character action. The do nots of setting can be summarized in one small sentence. Do not create tangents in your panel. So what are tangents? Well, tangents are intersections of a line that imply a relationship that the artist does not intend. A tangent happens when two lines from completely different objects interact in a coincidental way. A background line creates a distracting corner against a character, or a character's curve bumps into a background element. It's easy to avoid tangents if you're watching out for them. Now here's a few simple do's for avoiding tangents. Before you draw a character, do establish a horizon line or other structural room elements so you know where your characters fit into this space. Avoid tangents by overlapping and leaving distinct space between objects. To enhance your settings, do let your characters interact with their environments by placing them within the setting, not just in front of it. Now, when you use all four of these elements together in a well-planned and meaningful way, you're creating a functional comic panel. It's that simple, really. But of course, we're not here for functional panels. We want to make awesome, artistic, creative, amazing panels. In the next chapter, I'll take you one step closer to that goal.